Every man who's ever been betrayed knows that kind of silence. The kind that doesn't just echo in your ears, it echoes inside your chest. You start asking yourself, why? Why did she cheat? Why did she risk everything for something so temporary, so meaningless? You gave her loyalty. You gave her attention. You gave her what you thought she needed, but somehow, she still went looking for it in someone else. Here's what most men never understand. A woman rarely cheats because she's unhappy. She cheats because she's unfulfilled. Unhappiness is emotional, but unfulfillment is psychological. And that difference is what drives the entire dark psychology of female infidelity. See, the female mind doesn't process love the way a man's does. A man's love is linear. It's about loyalty, consistency, and effort. But a woman's love is circular. It revolves around emotion, excitement, and self-perception. She loves how she feels when she's with you, not necessarily you. That's the uncomfortable truth, because when those feelings fade, when the excitement burns out and the mirror of her emotions no longer reflects desire, she begins to crave it elsewhere. Not because she planned it, but because her psychology demands it. Every woman carries two versions of herself: the social woman and the shadow woman. The social woman is the one she shows you, loyal, loving, caring, committed. But the shadow woman is hidden underneath, driven by curiosity, desire, and the constant need to feel chosen. When those two selves collide, when the social woman feels neglected and the shadow woman feels caged, she looks for emotional oxygen outside the relationship. That's what cheating really is, not just a betrayal, but a psychological survival instinct. In this video, we're going to peel back that psychology. We'll explore the real reasons women cheat, not the excuses they give, but the subconscious forces that drive them. From emotional boredom to validation addiction, from social media temptation to the fantasy of the forbidden, we'll decode the dark motives they'll never admit. Because once you understand why she cheats, you stop blaming her and start mastering yourself. Let's begin. Part 1. The emotional vacuum. Why stability feels like boredom. The modern woman says she wants a stable man. Dependable, consistent, loyal. But the moment she gets him, she starts to feel something missing. That missing piece isn't love. It's emotional chaos. You see, stability provides security, but her psychology craves uncertainty. In dark psychology, this is called the emotional vacuum, a silent, subconscious craving for stimulation. A woman's brain is wired for emotional peaks and valleys, the very same chemical pattern that made her fall for you. Dopamine, oxytocin, adrenaline begins to fade as the relationship stabilizes. What she once called excitement becomes drama. What she once called passion becomes problems. And in her subconscious mind, that emotional void becomes unbearable. So she starts to unconsciously create instability. She picks fights, becomes distant, or starts seeking validation online. Why? Because conflict is emotionally stimulating. It gives her the illusion that something real is still happening. When you respond with calmness and reason, thinking it'll fix things, she feels even more disconnected, because to her, peace feels like absence. That's the twisted paradox of the female psyche. She desires emotional safety but feels alive only in emotional danger. So when another man, even a less capable one, triggers that chaos within her again, she feels something. That something becomes addictive, not because he's better, but because he reawakens the emotional turbulence she's addicted to. This is how emotional infidelity begins, not with physical attraction, but with psychological stimulation. It could be an ex texting, "I miss the old times." It could be a coworker giving her just a bit too much attention. It could be a friend she confides in when she doesn't feel understood. Each moment is a microdose of excitement, a hit of the same emotional drug her brain associates with falling in love. And here's the harsh truth. Most women don't stop themselves at that point. They convince themselves it's harmless, that she deserves to be happy. But what she's actually doing is escaping her own emotional numbness. She's not running from you. She's running from the boredom she feels within herself. Part 2. The validation loop. Attention as an emotional drug. If there's one addiction modern psychology fails to talk about, it's the female addiction to attention. Attention is the currency of her self-worth. It's how she measures desirability, confidence, and emotional relevance. From social media likes to male compliments, every form of validation becomes a psychological micro-reward. Each like, each message, each stare releases a small dose of dopamine, reinforcing the belief that she's wanted. And once a woman internalizes that attention equals worth, She begins to chase it, even subconsciously, no matter how committed she is. Here's where it gets darker. When a woman enters a relationship, she doesn't stop needing validation. She just starts expecting it from one man, you. But when your attention becomes familiar, when your compliments stop triggering dopamine, her brain begins to crave new sources. That's why she starts posting more revealing photos. That's why she just wants to feel confident again. That's why she starts engaging with other men's attention under the disguise of harmless fun. She'll tell herself she's not cheating because she hasn't done anything physical. But in psychological terms, she's already deep inside the validation loop. She's emotionally outsourcing self-worth from external attention. And once she starts feeding off that energy, reality begins to bend. The man at home starts to feel dull. His predictability turns into invisibility. She stops hearing your compliments, not because you stopped saying them, but because they no longer register as valuable. Why? Because familiar validation loses power. And that's when emotional infidelity transforms into physical temptation. Part 3. The Forbidden Fantasy. Why she's drawn to what she can't have. Every woman carries a fantasy, not always sexual but psychological. It's the fantasy of being wanted by someone she shouldn't be wanted by. This forbidden element, the thrill of the untouchable, the danger of being caught, activates one of the most primitive circuits in her brain, the reward system tied to risk. In psychology, this is known as the forbidden effect, the desire that grows stronger the more something feels out of reach. And for many women, especially those in long-term relationships, it's not the new man she desires, it's the version of herself that comes alive when temptation calls. She's not cheating for a man, she's cheating for an identity. You see, when she's in a stable relationship, she plays the role of the good woman, loyal, loving, responsible. But deep down, another part of her, the hidden, impulsive, sensual part, begins to feel suffocated. She wonders, do I still have it? Could I still attract someone new? Do men still notice me? That question becomes a psychological itch, and the forbidden fantasy is the scratch that soothes it. This is why women are often drawn to men who are off limits. The married co-worker, the old flame, the best friend's ex, or the man she knows would never commit. Each one represents danger, rebellion, and self-validation. The forbidden man is a mirror that reflects her repressed desires, the side she hides from society but can't deny exists. Here's the dark psychology behind it. The human brain confuses fear with attraction. When adrenaline rises, when something feels dangerous or secret, it amplifies emotional intensity. So when she's texting that man late at night, heart racing, hands shaking, she mistakes that thrill for emotional connection. It's not love. It's biochemical confusion. But her brain doesn't care. It's chasing the feeling, not the logic. Part 4. Emotional replacement. When she seeks what you stopped giving. Cheating doesn't always begin with lust. It begins with emotional neglect. Not because you stopped caring, but because she stopped feeling. When the emotional connection begins to fade, women don't always communicate it. They compensate for it. In dark psychology, this process is called emotional replacement. When a woman transfers her emotional needs from one man to another, without consciously realizing it, she'll start to open up to another man about her frustrations, her insecurities, her dreams. She'll say things like, "You understand me more than he does." That's the moment the shift happens, because emotional intimacy for her is foreplay. Most men think cheating starts in the bedroom. It doesn't. It starts in conversation. It starts in attention. It starts when she feels emotionally seen by another man. That understanding triggers the same chemicals in her brain that falling in love once did. And when that happens, her loyalty starts to fade. Not because she wants to hurt you, but because she's subconsciously replacing you. She's building emotional bridges to another man while emotionally withdrawing from you. That's why you'll notice her growing distant, less affectionate, less responsive, because part of her attention has already been reallocated. What's terrifying about emotional replacement is that it's nearly invisible in the beginning. There's no affair, no obvious betrayal, just subtle shifts. Her tone changes. Her priorities change. Her curiosity about you fades. She's physically there, but psychologically elsewhere. And once she's emotionally replaced you, physical cheating becomes just a final step. Because to her, the betrayal already happened long before the act. She's already bonded with someone else emotionally, and that connection feels like fate. In her mind, she's not cheating. She's following her heart. That's how powerful emotional displacement can be. Part 5. The power shift. When she feels dominance slipping away. At the core of every relationship lies an invisible power dynamic. In the beginning, the man often holds that power. He leads, she follows. He decides, she reacts. But as time passes, many men slowly hand over that power without realizing it. They become softer, more accommodating, more predictable, thinking that emotional safety equals loyalty. But here's the paradox. The moment she feels complete control, she loses attraction. In modern dark psychology, this is known as the power shift phenomenon. It's when the emotional hierarchy in a relationship flips, and the woman begins to perceive herself as the dominant force. She no longer sees her partner as a challenge, but as a possession. And once she feels she owns him emotionally, she begins to subconsciously test how much power she truly has. That's when the subtle disrespect begins. She starts crossing small boundaries, ignoring your standards and acting differently. She flirts openly, dismisses your concerns, or compares you to others, not because she's cruel, but because she's testing. She wants to know, will you tolerate this? Will you fight for your place, or will you fold? If you respond with weakness, by begging, over-explaining, or trying to please her, she feels disgust, not sympathy. Because her psychology doesn't crave compliance, it craves dominance balance. She wants to feel emotionally conquered, not emotionally comfortable. The absence of challenge suffocates her desire, and that's when she becomes vulnerable to cheating. Because when another man, confident, assertive, emotionally detached, enters the frame, he represents everything she subconsciously misses. Polarity, tension, unpredictability. Even if she doesn't consciously plan to cheat, her biology responds. She's drawn to the feeling of being overpowered, not physically, but psychologically. This is why many women cheat with men they don't even respect long-term. Because those men give them the illusion of losing control, and paradoxically, that's when they feel free. It's not love, it's psychological polarity. Part 6. The mirror effect, when her betrayal reflects your weakness. Every act of betrayal is a mirror. It reflects something deeper, not only about her, but about you. Because when a woman cheats, she's revealing not just her psychology, but your emotional positioning in the relationship. See, the darker truth of modern relationships is that a woman's behavior often mirrors a man's emotional energy. If you're grounded, she becomes centered. If you're insecure, she becomes chaotic. If you lose your mission, she loses her respect. And when respect dies, so does loyalty. The mirror effect explains why many good men end up betrayed. It's not because they weren't enough. It's because they stopped being unchangeable. They started revolving around her emotions instead of making her revolve around their purpose. When a man gives up his polarity, when he abandons his dominance, ambition, and emotional independence, a woman's subconscious reads it as weakness. Women are not consciously aware of this shift, but they feel it. Their attraction system is ancient. It responds to strength, certainty, and leadership. So when that energy fades, she doesn't logically decide to cheat. She feels disconnected. And in her emotional world, disconnection feels like death. To survive that psychological emptiness, she seeks a new emotional mirror. Someone who reflects the version of herself she misses. Maybe that mirror is an ex who once made her feel wild and desired. Maybe it's a stranger online who gives her attention with no responsibility attached. Maybe it's a man who simply reminds her of the excitement she's lost. Whoever it is, he becomes the projection surface for her unmet emotions. But here's the darkest layer. Her betrayal is rarely about replacing you. It's about replacing the version of herself that died in the relationship. She doesn't miss you. She misses who she was when you first met. The thrill, the curiosity, the mystery. That's what she's chasing. You became too predictable, too accessible, too emotionally safe. And in her psychology, safety equals stagnation. Part 7. The repetition. Compulsion. Why she'll do it again. One of the most painful realizations for men is that once a woman cheats, the probability of her repeating it skyrockets. Not because she's evil, but because she's neurologically conditioned by the rush. In psychology, this is called repetition. Compulsion, the subconscious drive to repeat a behavior that once delivered emotional stimulation, even if it caused pain. After a woman cheats, she experiences two conflicting emotions, guilt and exhilaration. And in her nervous system, that combination becomes addictive. Her brain now links secrecy and deceit with excitement and freedom. That wiring doesn't simply disappear, it imprints. So even if she promises she'll never do it again, the pattern often hides beneath the surface. When stress returns, when boredom creeps in, when she feels emotionally trapped again, the mind remembers the escape route. And that escape was cheating. You'll notice subtle signs long before it happens again. She distances emotionally. She begins guarding her phone. Her routines subtly change. And when you confront her, she'll reverse the accusation, gaslight, cry, or play victim. Not because she's scheming, but because her psyche can't handle the guilt of confronting the truth. The repetition compulsion also comes from unresolved childhood conditioning. Many women grow up linking love with instability. If her father figure was emotionally distant or inconsistent, her nervous system associates affection with anxiety. So as an adult, peace feels boring, chaos feels romantic. That's why she unconsciously recreates emotional storms, because in her mind, that's what love feels like. Understanding the unspoken code. When a woman cheats, it's rarely random. It's a culmination of boredom, validation hunger, emotional disconnection, and psychological imbalance. But beneath every reason lies the same root cause, a lack of internal control. The modern woman lives in an attention economy that feeds her ego and starves her depth. She's surrounded by temptation, by men offering validation for free, by digital fantasies that distort reality, by a culture that glorifies independence but hides loneliness. And in that environment, loyalty becomes fragile. Remember this, a woman's loyalty will never exceed her respect for you, and her respect will never exceed your respect for yourself. The moment you make her the source of your validation, you give her the power to destroy you. But when you make your purpose the source of your validation, you become untouchable. Cheating exposes the truth about both people. It reveals her emotional instability and your dependence on her approval. Use that revelation as fuel. Become colder in your logic, sharper in your awareness, and deeper in your strength. Because real power isn't about controlling women. It's about mastering yourself so deeply that no betrayal can shake your foundation. Once you reach that level, you stop fearing what she might do and start commanding what you will become. And that, my friend, is the secret every betrayed man must learn. You don't heal by hoping she'll regret losing you. You heal by becoming the man she could never betray again, because you no longer need her to validate your worth.